Welcome to Toffee TV, joined by John Blain in the studio to talk about this Everton stadium. Given the green light last Friday, it was revealed that the government would not be objecting to planning permission that had been given by Liverpool City Council. It had to go to national government, and the government have been quite happy for this to proceed. So, great news, John. And
yeah, absolutely. Nothing to see here. Move along, so to speak. But certainly on Friday, because for many it was a surprise about the timing, wasn't it? Which allowed many, probably Everton fans, for a short while to hold the breath and go, "Is this a wind up or not?"
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't. It's real, and next steps are eagerly awaited. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, this has been going on for some time. In fact, Pep put our video back out the other day of when we went down to Bramley Moore. It was 4 years ago.
Oh God, yeah,
mad. To think that, when Everton had secured the land, they'd come out that's where they wanted. We'd done a drive from Goodison down to Bramley Moore just to show where it is and everything. And it's taken a while to get here, but I think one of the things was that since Everton kind of pressed the reset button on the project in terms of where it was, Everton have...
I mean, when Elston left.
When Elston left, and it was a year, behind whatever it was.
It was a year, yeah.
Ever since then, Everton have kind of done everything they've said they were going to do, which I know, people have not always praised Everton for whatever reason, but I think on this one, they've done really well to keep people informed, and they've done a lot of work in the background as well, haven't they, which meant that when it did get sent down to national government, and when it went in front of the local council as well, that they had the answers to all the difficult questions.
Yeah, and that was what... when the chief exec changed. And that's what Denise said, really, which was our intent is to build a body of evidence that might look a bit heavy at the front, but will make it a bit lighter at the end, And it was, the going to the minister, despite what people thought about, that's another delay and all these sorts of things, but it wasn't at all, was it? He run a few, I don't know how many it was, but a few working days beyond the statutory sort of 21 days and said, nothing to see here, happy to go on, off you go do it. And then the local and national media didn't particularly pick up on it and I did a tweet about it was never in doubt. And it wasn't really, was it? I mean, if you look at all the work the club did around consultation and I said this on the EBM that we recorded Saturday morning about this huge body of evidence that said it's a no-brainer, the answer's yes. But I also said on the podcast, we're now at a place called Start. Yeah. So the hard yards, are not necessarily behind us, but rather in front of us. And let's hope everything goes to plan. And we're in there in the summer of 3 years from now, 24, wondering who the big, glorious, last pre-season friendly is going to be against. And having secured commitment from the Premier League, because we'll still be there then, of course, about who that first game is going to be against. Yeah. And we could almost, I don't know, I never thought about it. There's a whole host of thoughts about who the game might be, mightn't it? Whoever we played at Goodison at the first time, or whoever we played for the first time in the Football League, whoever's the biggest team in the world at the time. That shower from across the park, I know my thoughts of start the season with a derby would be interesting, but I can imagine Evertonians throughout the world going, let's not start with the risk of the first game being thrown in our face for the next 50
Let's play Real Madrid this one.
That's right,
the glorious
but yeah, so they'll have to do those trial things, but like Tottenham
test
did.
Games,
test games, whatever. But a glorious last game before the season starts with some big name is going to be really cool, isn't it?
Lovely. It is. I mean, even though I've been very confident all the way through, and obviously we've been in a lot of the press briefings with the stadium since they did press the reset button, so to speak. And the club have always been quite honest and open in those meetings, as you've been there as well. You know yourself, haven't you? They've said, we're doing this next. And then when we've done that, this is the next step. And they've done everything they've said they were going to do. So he's very confident, and obviously looking now in terms of the way the world has been in the last year with the global pandemic and stuff, it was always a great opportunity to bring a bit of regeneration to the city. It get a chance for people, 15,000 jobs they think will be created, and that's not to mention things around it, which will undoubtedly, hotels and bars will undoubtedly pop up now, because that is going to be the bookend of the city. It's going to work its way back to the city centre and all of that area. It's fantastic for that area, I think, because it
they'll
will
push inland as well with the 10 streets.
Well, of course,
or,
yeah.
Or 15 or 20 streets, but which it'll
by
become.
the time it's done, yeah. So I think it's great, isn't it? And it's really exciting, and obviously the
Look
designs and everything. I mean, that the thumbnail says it all, doesn't it? Or shows it all. It just looks absolutely fantastic. And Everton
and that's not the best picture I've seen of it either. That's deliberately been done, I suppose, so you can see through the south stand.
Yeah, of course,
to see the pitch.
But I think it's even Everton having to do the redesign with obviously the steps in front of it and everything. It's all been done fantastically
well. That was the only crease on what they did, wasn't it?
Yeah,
because
really.
Putting a multi-storey car park there was never going to be a good idea. I like to think that sometimes when you're trying to get people to approve things, you need to give them something to find.
Yeah, and say, look, we'll alter this.
Yeah,
to fit in.
So who knows? But that added a little bit of a delay. But notwithstanding this pandemic year, as you say, it is a decision before the summer or on site before the summer, and clearly that's going to happen, isn't it? So that's good.
I mean, it's been really, it was dead interesting when there was obviously some Evertonians who thought it would never happen, and there was a lot of other people we shared the city with who were going down and filming cones at an empty dock and saying this is going well, and just so even a couple of the lads in here even the other week, we've got the screensaver on as Bramley, and we were just laughing, going, the way you actually think you're going to move to that place, and we were just smirking and oh yeah. But Everton had spent £40 million up to last summer on the ground. That's how serious they were. And obviously now we move into the next steps phase, don't we? So I think the first thing is to complete the purchase of the land. There's an agreement with Peel, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the land wet signatures, I would imagine, because that was sort of a deal done a while ago, wasn't it? Subject to planning, you know. Well, we've got the planning now, so that should just be a rubber stamping. They've got to finalise the agreement with the construction company, and bits and bobs and stuff. So I'm sure that will take a little bit of while, but they'll be on site. If they're not on today, it won't be long. Yeah, so.
I mean, they've been doing stuff all the way through, haven't they? We've had brick,
bits and bobs,
brick down there, haven't we? Different types of brick has been down there since September, I think it was
it was around September, because that's when the people who were based there on tugs and stuff moved out.
So then they had the stuff there to see how the elements cope with the brick. Salt water, the weather, the wind, the rain, to see how it copes with it. So I've been obviously moving forward from now, and I think it's a real exciting time, isn't it? It's, historically as well. It's probably, I've said this last week, I think, it's probably the biggest thing we will ever witness as Evertonians, us, certainly, and to move stadium. I mean, people who are 80, 90 haven't seen this in their life, and things like that. So, and it is the fourth stadium we'll have built in the city.
The whole century has elapsed.
Well, exactly. So you look at it like that.
A complete century, and we're 20% through this one,
it's incredible, isn't it, to think of what we're going to witness as well. And the day that we can go there and it looks like that, it's going to be absolutely brilliant. But just to see it rise out the ground, I think.
Well, that's it, and that's what Meese talked about, isn't it? Seeing it rise out the ground and thinking once it's there, it's always been there, so to speak.
Yeah.
And time will fly. We're a year into this pandemic thing. If you assume we're not really in any great numbers going to get into football grounds until next season, before you know it, it'll be nearly 2 years since, we were at proper live games. Certainly 18 months.
18 months,
and perhaps 2 years before you get up to volumes and so on. And that's 2/3 the build time of this thing. So just turn that into what will you have up here in a year's time?
Go quickly,
about the progress and stuff, and the club will do things while they're topping and tailing and sealing the dock, getting the fish out. Sounds daft, but that's what they're going to have to do. Relocate the fish to a new habitat and stuff, and then drain the thing and then find out what's in there.
Nazi gold. big money. You never know. You never know.
A lot of prams.
Yeah, trams and trolleys maybe. I seen something over the weekend with Dan Meese was obviously reacting to the news, and he was obviously key to the whole thing. Talking about Bill Kenwright, and I know Bill Kenwright is a divisive subject, and that's fine. Everyone's got different sides of the fence. But Dan Meese was saying that Bill Kenwright was very much against the value engineering of a stadium, and I think we all know that there was a cheaper option, which would have been the Cross situation, wouldn't it? Stonebridge up that way. And Everton always wanted this one. I think obviously Bill Kenwright would have wanted this one as well on the river, the riverfront and all that. But it's key, isn't it, the way the club have gone about it? Even taking Bill Kenwright out of that conversation, the way the club have gone about it to choose a more difficult location, probably a much more expensive location with a lot more obstacles, but the end result will be what you see.
Yeah, I mean, notwithstanding inflating the thing, in the sense of it undoubtedly will cost more.
Yeah, but you meant a rubber thing, because of where it is.
It will undoubtedly cost more because that's what happens, isn't it? And the things they find which may end up costing more. I mean, when they did some of the surveys and so on the site, that added what they found out, maybe £50 million to the build cost. So the site itself costs us 100 million more than building it in an empty field somewhere.
Yeah.
And then when Dan's talking about the value engineering, I don't think he's talking about the site per se.
Yeah.
He's talking about the structure.
Yeah.
Can you build a 53,000 seater stadium at less cost than this one's going to cost? Probably. Yeah. I mean, people saw them at Kirby, didn't they? Every time I drive through town, heading to the 62 from where I live, I have to go into Warrington and I can see Halliwell Jones, and that's just a smaller version of what we would have had at Kirby. There's a Tesco next door. Yeah. It's a four-sided stand thing, very simple, very low value, as Dan might call it. Yeah. And this isn't going to be that. Now, the fitting out and stuff inside, there's opportunities there, I guess, to cut corners. But the actual structure itself is going to look like that, isn't it? Yeah. And we do want it to be cost effective, because at the end of the day, I never think to myself, is this seat uncomfortable or not? When I'm at the ground, I might have was paying $5,000 a year for a fine dining experience, and there happens to be a football match on in the background. But that's not why most of us go. And so the lads and lasses who are going to be in the south stand, they want it to be close to each other for driving atmosphere. They want the rail seats to be right behind the goal, and whether it's 1-to-1 or higher ratios, who gives a damn? But there will be standing and so on.
We want it to be more.
Well, yeah, but most Premier League clubs right now are considering safe standing, and they're putting them in.
Well, Man City are.
So City will put it in. Chelsea will announce, I guess.
United are doing it.
Yes, Chelsea will announce pretty soon, and they're all doing it very much on the guidance of the local safety advisory groups and stuff. And I spoke to the club, not heavily, but just as a a side chat. Must be a year ago, about for last season, put some rail seats in.
At Goodison. No, this is something Pad's been
in the areas where standing is persistent, I mean, it's difficult for us because we'd be expending money on stuff that isn't going to last very long, and the COVID things made all of that window shorter, isn't it? But it's a shame, because I think a deal could have been done there with people, perhaps even people we know, someone like John or somebody. But a deal could have been done that could have trialled perhaps for the originals guys to be in a standing section. Though you can never call it that. But anyway, we're getting distracted. This thing will have whatever X thousands of rail seats. And by then, the fact that we're designing it to allow greater than 1-to-1, it might even uplift the capacity a little bit.
Needs to. Needs to. And I suppose finally the only other thing really to cover, looking at it at the moment, will be the naming rights thing, because obviously Alasher Usmanov's USM with Mashiri and Stock, is it? The other gentleman they've paid £30 million to have the option, the purchase option for a multi-year sponsorship on the ground.
Yeah, in my terms, I think they probably paid 30 million quid for last call. Yeah. Last call being, well, we've got this deal for X. if you can match it, it's yours,
Yeah.
so to speak. And therefore we can still go and sell it to others, you know. And but it's going to be a substantial sum, I would imagine, because it's going to get a lot of attention, that stadium, because it's pretty. Misa's done us proud, hasn't he? And its location, and who knows what happens when, I mean, flights are going to go over it, aren't they, on the way into Speak?
Well, you've got the new, obviously the new cruise terminal as well.
Well,
so,
yeah, you're going to see all
people
those
coming in down. It's on the every you know, drone footage of Liverpool. The ground will be on every like plane, like you say, and going over and stuff like that. So it's going to be an iconic stadium anyway, and where it is on the banks of the Royal Blue Mersey and all that.
I'm so pleased, you know, that so many people use that phrase now.
Oh, it's great.
And because it winds the other shower up no end, you know. But everybody says it now, which is good. And I think we've talked about it on here, haven't we? We should all just say it. We should never say the Mersey without sticking Royal Blue.
Royal Blue, just to
you know, Meese did his thing on Instagram, didn't he? Of a shot taken low down, which when the stadium was lit up in blue, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, and all that stuff's all going to be state of the art as well. You know, in the sense of lighting and the screen sizes inside are going to be the biggest there is, and all that rubbish. So it's all very exciting, and Amazon are going to love it when they do the documentary.
I did notice that Amazon had put a tweet out, and I did notice your response.
Good listening into
that'd be incredible, and obviously with Ancelotti as well. I get one more thing before we finish. I just wanted to talk about...
one more thing.
Well, it is, because it's just come back to me. But it's quite an important thing. I've done a bit of reading over the weekend on it, and it was in response to, well, other than, you know, footballers and statistics and stuff, was the financial fair play aspect of the stadium. Is that Everton can now, it no longer counts against, I've got the note there just to remind me.
Wonder what he's doing.
Now the planning permission has been granted, money spent on the stadium no longer counts against Everton in football financial rules. So
it'll help a bit on
what does that mean? Break that down for us.
Well, in a soundbite.
Yeah.
The amount of money that we've spent so far has been a project cost,
yeah.
i.e. consultants, but blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And as you say, it's, what was it, 40 million?
40 million.
Okay. You can't fix the past, can you? But you can help. And this year we were planning to spend another, whatever it was, 15, 20 million.
20 million, yeah.
And of course, if we never built the damn thing, that would just be an investment that failed. Okay. But what you can do is you can capitalise costs once the project's real, you know, which means a bit like a player, really. You can depreciate, so amortise that money over a period of time, you know, which would be the life of the stadium. I suspect, I mean, it's debatable what the life of the stadium will be perceived to be, yeah? But it'll be over tens of years, maybe 50 years or something. Yeah. So if you simplistically say, if we were going to burn through 20 million quid this year, then that would hit our profit and loss as a minus, you know, cost of 20 million quid, wouldn't it? You amortise that over 20 years, it's only $1 million.
Right.
So it does help with things like financial fair play. It's less helpful around the sustainability rules that the Premier League have, although of course it does impact on your profitability. So it's not going to do us any harm. It's going to help a little bit. And we're right up against the buffers on that, of course. But of course, when the club has been spending money, and the people have been saying you can't do this because you'll breach financial fair play or whatever, then the club know what we don't know, which is how much they've accounted for and how they're going to move the numbers around. So all I'd say is Ryzantsev, the finance guy, always said that when the time comes to add up the numbers, we'll be compliant.
Okay.
So,
fair enough.
But sorry, again, because you brought it up, it doesn't mean that Carlo's going to go out and spend hundreds of millions of pounds in the summer. Just like, as we discussed here, and it's pleased, by the way, to see that the world is catching up with what you discussed, or we discussed a number of weeks ago, that FFP is almost no more. Be replaced by something else. Might be called FFP, it might not. And that may or may not favour us. But either way, it doesn't mean there's bucket loads of money to be churned out. And I sat over there watching Cara talk to you, you know, and you've still got to have value, you know, because spending 75 million quid on a centre forward who's 10% better than DCL isn't particularly a good idea, is it? But exciting times for us. They've reacted badly, the ones across the park so far. And I think, as I said on EBM on Saturday morning, there's 3 years for them to try and put fear, uncertainty and doubt into the minds of Evertonians, and I think you should just laugh in their faces. They're currently rewriting history, that we've never built 3 new stadiums, that Anfield was always theirs, we were thrown out, all that rubbish. Just laugh at them, mate, you know, because mates even.
There you go.
You know, and 6 times obviously means number of home defeats, not anything else these days. So.
I mean, there you go. I mean, it's exciting times. It's great news that Everton have got this, and it's, you know, and I expect as we move forward as well, in terms of the financial aspects of it, it's the way to make more money. We can't make that kind of money at Goodison Park, and we will do there. So it's all good, and obviously it helps with things like players coming in. You know, the project's real now. It's great showing a player, oh, look at these lovely drawings we've got, but it's actually a reality now. So,
and that is important, you know, because whilst people might say that's a bit of a soft reason to go to a football club, if you're not in Europe, for example, which is perhaps more important, every bit helps.
It's progress.
And you only have to listen to what players have said in the past when they were shown around Finch Farm, and they see those facilities. They'll be shown flybys of this, they'll be shown player tunnels, you know.
Progress, though. If you're going to a club and they've got this on the horizon, it's all signs of progress. So, excellent, brilliant news for Everton. Absolutely made up. Let us know what you think in the comments section. Well, can you just not wait now to get to Bramley Moore? Obviously, we know we all love Goodison Park, and it'll be very difficult. The last few games there, it'll be quite emotional, particularly the last one. But, and we're all excited, well, majority are excited to get here. And
some of us are going to be very, very lucky. We're going to go to the last game at Goodison and the first
game there.
And that is something you will tell your grandchildren.
Yeah, that's something to treasure. Big thanks to John for joining me. Let us know in the comments section below what you think. Give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. And if you want more videos, including daily live videos, why not join us on Patreon? See you later.